Hey guys, Colin Elam again, aka the Musket Man, and I am finally back for another range session on the Musket Man 98 channel. I know it has been over 14 months since my last range video. I've done a lot of short videos for YouTube and a couple of gun table talks here and there, and I finally have had the time to come out and film another video. Now real quick, where have I been? Well, life is really the answer is life. I know a lot of you from the last video I probably mentioned I'm married, and usually here in the States you have a family, and I became a father for the very first time a little over a year ago. And those that are parents and fathers know when you have children, you just don't have as much time to do extracurricular stuff anymore. Now that my son's a little over a year old, I've got just a little bit more time to come do stuff like this. So I thought, okay, it's time to get back out on the range and film another range session. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, lots of YouTubers have already done videos, and even me on the channel, is over round ball paper cartridges. Now the gun we are going to be using real quick is the Brown Bess musket by Pedersoli, flintlock, chambered in 75 caliber. Big old honkin' bore. It is not rifled, smooth bore, and it shoots a ball, not a conical bullet or anything like that. But we've seen what the Brown Bess can do with a round ball. If you haven't seen that video, please go check it out. And you'd be surprised how accurate a smooth bore flintlock can actually be. But that's not what we're here to do on the range today. What we're actually going to do is something that was used in militaries across the world, used in the American Revolution, the Civil War, all parts of Europe, is the famous cartridge everybody knows and loves, is the buck and ball paper cartridge. Now, what was the buck and ball cartridge used for? Well, back then, and even prior of the United States, before we existed, is it was used for massive volley fire. You've seen the movies where the soldiers are walking, then they stop, they, make ready, take aim, fire. We've all seen those, and we love them, like movies like The Patriot and The Alamo and stuff like that. But what that was meant to do with buck and ball was to send more lead downrange when you're firing at massive formations of enemy lines. It wasn't per se made for individual targets, even though it might help you out in closer ranges if you had to get a shot off very quickly. So what this is going to do is all your buddies, you line up, you fire your buck and ball, and all that lead is being flown in that direction. Somebody's going to get hit somewhere. You've increased the lead being flown at the enemy by 3 times. Now, the buckshot, and I'll show you again real quick just so you can get another view of it. These are my homemade paper cartridges, by the way. Thank you, Jefferson Arsenal, for sending me your kit. This video couldn't have been possible without them. This was made from their kit. So you can see you've got 69 caliber ball and 3 double-aught buckshot, which comes out to about a .311 diameter round ball. So they're actually still being used in militaries today, even in the civilian market. Maybe not with an old style gun like this, but with a lot of shotguns. Believe it or not, in the civilian market, a lot of people use them for home defense, vehicle defense, or even hunting, believe it or not, in some parts of the world where it's a lot of brush and trees. Our military, even to a degree, still uses the buck and ball cartridge in shotguns for close quarter combat. So, pretty neat. The buck and ball cartridge is still not obsolete, I guess you could say, and is still being used today all across the world. It was actually George Washington's favorite cartridge during the American Revolution, simply because it sent so much lead downrange at the enemy. Somebody was going to get hit somewhere. It may not necessarily, not to be morbid, unalive them, be more PG, but it might wound them enough to get that person out of the fight or to shake up the enemy. That's what you wanted. That's initially was the point for buck and ball. And it was also made famous in the American Civil War with the 1842 Springfield. We've had that on the channel before, and it will be returning at some point. The Irish Brigade carried buck and ball cartridges. And for the same purpose, it sent a wall of lead and did just immense damage. Now, accuracy. We're fixing to find out today what kind of accuracy we can get with it. Typically, it's not supposed to be hole-in-hole accurate. That just wasn't the point of the cartridge. But what we're going to test today is we're going to test at closer ranges, about 25, 50, and maybe even 75 yards. We're not going to be going over as much over the ball cartridge, even though I will be shooting one mainly as a fouling shot, and to show you maybe a little bit of the accuracy that the smoothbore can get. Then we're going to try the Brown Bess to see where the ball and the buckshot are hitting, to give you, the viewer, a better idea of the damage that can be done with a buck and ball cartridge. Well, anyway, guys, let's stop talking about it and let's do the fun part, which is let's take the old Brown Bess out and put her through her paces and see what she can do with the legendary buck and ball cartridge. All right, before we start this video, in the great words of the Black Powder Maniac shooter, ear protection and eye protection is strongly recommended when it comes to flintlocks, muzzleloaders, and all firearms. The flintlock we're going to be shooting today has a massive flash very close to your face. Shards of that burning powder or bits of the flint can fly back and hit you in the eye, so make sure you're wearing proper eye protection to protect your eyesight. And coming from a guy that has tinnitus from not being smart wearing earplugs in my youth, I highly recommend you do this because you can't repair your hearing either. So make sure you're taking the proper safety precautions when it comes to flintlock muskets, percussion guns, and all firearms. All right, guys, so the type of target we're going to be using today was what I've always used on the channel. And sorry, hopefully you can hear me. The wind has picked up just a tad, and hopefully you can still hear me on the audio. But we're going to be using Paper Pete, a man-sized target, and using the breast cancer awareness simply because, well, I mean, why not? And number two is I like the big pink because you can definitely see when you've hit the target. You'll notice that right here in the bullseye, there's a little hole. That is because it is deer season, and we were testing to make sure that our rifles were on before we tried to go get a mule deer here in this part of Texas. And as you can see, not a bad shot. So, but ignore that. That was not a buck shot. That was not anything like that. But the reason we're using a man-sized target is because, again, smoothbore musket. This is what it was intended to shoot at, a massive line of them. And that way we have a massive target so we can try to get as many rounds on target so you, the viewer, can understand what exactly we're working with. So anyway, let's back up, do some shooting. All right, hopefully the audio is coming out. I'm speaking as loud as I can to make it not obnoxious. But we're about 25 yards away from Paper Pete, and what I would like to do is I'm going to fire a round ball cartridge first to give you more of an idea of the round ball's capability. Now, I've already done a video over that, and the Brown Bess did pretty well, but that's not the test we're going to be doing today. That is just going to compare with the buckshot at 25 yards to kind of see, or give you, the viewer, an idea of what we're dealing with. Now, I will also not be loading my musket the traditional way. I talk about this every time that I do a range video. Somebody driving by the pit is where they would take it, tear the cartridge, prime first, load the rest of the gun. There's a couple reasons I don't do that. Other guys, y'all want to do that, historical reenactors, historical shooters, all that, go right ahead. That's great. In fact, I think it's kind of cool. Reason I don't. Number one is safety reasons. Now, this is a Pedersoli. I'm not worried about anything dramatic happening, but to me, I think it's not safe. Is if something was going to have a catastrophic failure and I did not have this hammer stall here, which is what that guy's called, and somehow that hammer fell, made a good enough spark to set it off, where does it go? My face is right here. My hand is right here. Could happen. Do I think it will? No, but I simply don't do it. Number two is when you do that, you're putting, every time you load the gun, you're not putting the exact same amount of powder down the barrel, which is going to slightly affect the accuracy even with a smoothbore musket. So that is also why I don't do that, because I try to get the best accuracy I can out of the gun. This is a worn out flint. Hopefully it still works because it has been used, but it's still pretty sharp. And these Pedersoli Brown Bess, from all the videos I've seen, they are very, very reliable. I think I've had one misfire with this gun, knock on wood. So anyway, let's load it up and see what we can do. Now, initially they would have torn this off with their teeth. I don't really like doing that since I'm not really in any kind of emergency. So we're just not going to do that. I know some people might get mad and go, that's not historically correct. They would have bit it off the. That's fine. I'm doing it how I want to do it. By the way, this is 120 grains of 1F GoX with a .690 round ball. Okay, a little bit of priming powder. I've noticed that this Brown Bess likes a lot of powder in the pan. That can change between flintlocks. Okay. Bring back to full cock. Gun is ready to fire. There's one. Let's go see what it did. All right, guys. I definitely know I flinched on that. It had a little bit of a delay, but nothing too bad. But pretty decent shot, at least for 25 yards with the musket. Let's see what we got here. You see that? Okay, so I was aiming about right here. And I did feel myself go up because of that hang fire. So it does show you what happens with flintlocks if you don't hold your aim. So still, easy shot, nothing too serious. But let's back up to 25, see what the buck and ball cartridge can do. Hopefully this wind ain't screwing with me too bad. There we go. The buck and ball. By the way, this is my first time ever firing a buck and ball cartridge. The research I did shows that buck and ball, or buckshot, they say to use about the same powder charge, which is about 110 grains. May change with what powder you're using. But with modern powder, about 110. Okay. Here we go, buck and ball. I'm actually somewhat excited. This is kind of fun. Kind of fun, it is fun. It's always fun when you get to go out and shoot a musket. When I tap it, that's to level the powder, in case anybody was wondering. All right, here we go. Ooh, Nelly. A little bit more kick on that. All right, let's see what we did there. Oh yeah, I think we got him. Wow, that's a little bit interesting result. If y'all can see, main ball hit him just above the bull, and all three buckshot, if you can see right there, 1, 2, 3. So they went way right. I didn't flinch on that one and actually kept it right where it's supposed to go. That is interesting. Wow. And that's at 25 yards, granted. So you can already see at 25 yards, this was not made for individual targets. Even though it did the job, this was made for massive volley fire, because you can already see the spread right there. And this is honestly just overkill. Well, we're going to back up to 50. Again, I'm a little rusty, but we're going to back up to 50 and see what I could do with Paper Pete. All right, 50 yards with buck and ball. Hopefully, musket keeps shooting. This flint is a little worn, but so far so good. Knock on wood. Spilling a little bit of powder. It's all right. Happened back in the day, so why wouldn't it happen today? Man, these are loading very easy. I've noticed with the round ball cartridges, sometimes after the fouling, it can get a little bit harder. Still easy to load, but still more sluggish. These buck and ball cartridges are actually going down pretty easy, which, by the way, this gun was already dirty. We shot it a couple days prior, and all I did was clean the lock. I didn't clean the barrel. So that's kind of amazing. I'm a little shocked there. Oh. That one rattled my teeth just a little bit. All right, guys. Sorry about the horrible camera work. Maybe that's better. Hopefully you can hear me. I got my earplugs in. All right. Okay. So there is that one at 50 yards, which I'm kind of shocked I was able to do that. So spread on the ball is not bad. However, we have, we have no buckshot impacts on the target. That's weird. I figured at least one would hit. Maybe it stayed together. I'm not sure. I'm trying to look for any fresh hits on the barrel. Here. No. Wow. So with that shot, the ball hit, I was aiming right here. So the ball hit almost exactly where I was aiming at 50 yards. But the buckshot is nowhere to be seen. Again, proving that the buck and ball cartridge was made for massive formation. So it could have gone to the left of him, to the right, and hit other soldiers, over his head, hit the guys behind him. And that was kind of the whole point. So, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, guys, I decided to come back to 50 yards to try again to see if I can get some buckshot on target, because right now my test isn't doing so good for you, the viewer. But what's crazy is my round ball, or my buckshot cartridge, this guy right here, buck and ball, is more accurate than my initial shot with the round ball. Now, granted, I did have a hang fire, but still, that's a little crazy. I was definitely not expecting that to happen. And real quick, everybody, I know I'm tearing off paper cartridges. Sorry, I got in the way. Guys, this brown paper is biodegradable. I had some people in older comments saying I was littering. Well, I'm on my own land. This brown paper, next time it rains, it's gone. It is biodegradable. Still easy to load. Nothing bad about that at all. Let's get up here. Maybe I can get up here to show you. Probably should have been doing that already. So flint's still getting to spark, knock on wood. Okay. Hopefully you can see. This is a live round. By the way, there's other people in the comments that thought I was shooting blanks. This is live ammunition, as you can see. Just because it's over nearly 300 years old, it'll still perform very well like it was supposed to today. All right, firing. Felt myself drop on that one, but let's go see what happened. Now this is what I get for being cocky. All right, put it back down. Hopefully, just do it real quick. All right, so that is my initial shot. I know for a fact that was me because I was pulling up and I pulled the trigger, had a hang fire again, probably because of the old flint. And I did feel myself pull to the left. So that was user error. But the good news is we do have 1 and 2 buckshot hit the individual target. Hopefully you can see. Let me get a little closer. Yeah, right up here in the collarbone, right here in the lung. So that's about what to expect with buck and ball. But all the cartridges, even up to 50 yards, have been kill shots. This would have been an awful, awful wound. And with these two, probably would have ended him later. But all three, this was slightly user error, but all 3 cartridges have been on target. Now I may go back to 75, which is about where my pickup's at, and let's see if I can hit him again with the buck and ball cartridge. All right. Hopefully it's a little better. I'm trying to use my pickup as a wind blockage, and it doesn't seem that it's really doing the job. The wind has just picked up. West Texas, you live out here, there's going to be wind. But anyway, we backed up to 75. Let's see what we can do with the buck and ball cartridge. I'll get up a close-up to show everybody. how the loading goes. Again, they would have used their mouths. I just don't feel like doing that. I know Major Sharp and Sergeant Harper would be very disappointed in me for not getting off 3 rounds a minute in any weather, wind or no. But I'm out here shooting for fun. Okay. Half cock, that is your safety. Oh. Okay. This one might be slightly off camera because I have to block the wind, so we'll just get a close up of the lock. How about that? That'll be fun. All right, let's check it out. All right. Okay. Not horrible. All right. So at 75 yards, again, everybody just thinks that these guns are just so horribly inaccurate, you can't hit anything. Well, is it compared to an AR-15? Yeah, it's not whole and whole accurate. But we had the main charge hit here, and that is insane. No buckshot again. So that tells me that the spread on this buck and ball cartridge is insane. That means those buckshot are going all over the place. And honestly, because of the smoke cloud of the gun, I can't tell where it's going. But what I am impressed with, and I'm coming kind of aim down so you can see the target, is that the buck and ball cartridge, the main ball was still able to hit a man-sized target at 25, 50, and 75 yards. Now, for my previous video with the Brown Bess, naturally the round ball was more accurate, and I got cocky earlier in the video, and that's what I get. So I did slightly hang fire or flinch again, hence why they're called flinch locks. Again, I think it's just the flint. Need to get a new one, but that's still impressive. What this cartridge at this range. I'm not even going to bother backing up to 100 because not that I don't think I won't hit it, because I might miss. But from what I can tell is the buckshot is just spreading so rapidly and wide that it's going on either side of him, over him, his legs, because I don't see any new hits. So it's hitting the guys next to him, the guys over him, which was the whole point of the buck and ball cartridge. So that is impressive. Wow. So I would call this test a complete success over the buck and ball. I would love to return to test it again with other guns. But yeah, I call that a success. All right, so I thought about just ending the video right there, but I just have a feeling that the buck and ball cartridge just did not give you, the viewer at home, the full experience of what it can do. So I taped up a new target, that's one of them sticky ones, and here's what I'm gonna do. So I've got about 5 of the buck and ball cartridges left, and what I'm gonna do, instead of when I tear it and push the rest of the cartridge down, is I'm going to pull it back this way and load it upside down. Now, there has been people that have tested this. Hickok 45 is the one that I know that's tested this. And I think in theory, this is supposed to tighten up the buckshot, but you're going to lose more accuracy in the round ball. Now, you at home are probably going, Colin, that's just too dangerous. You can't do that loading a cartridge upside down. Yes, you can. These type of cartridges, when it comes to muskets, you can in fact load them upside down and you will get different effects, but it will not harm the gun. Now, there is such things as being dumb with these guns, like loading smokeless, putting 3 musket balls down in there, everything like that. If it shoots it normally just fine, it's the same amount of projectiles and weight coming out of the barrel. So it's not going to crater the barrel or cause a catastrophic failure. So we are going to try this and just see if there's any difference. Because honestly, I'm kind of shocked with the performance of loading it regularly. Okay. Man, look at that. That's just easy. This is dirty. This gun has had 12 rounds put through it, some that were off camera. This thing has kept firing with this flint. So, ever again. Okay, let's try and see what happens. Hopefully y'all can see the target. Okay, here we go. Firing. All right, let's go check that out. Okay, that one did have a different effect, but not quite what I was looking for. So, almost a bullseye, granted 25 yards, but we did have a buckshot hit here and here, and I believe this is one up here. Ignore these, that was a practice shot. So yes, 1, 2, 3, and the main ball. So, from the last shot at 25 yards, it did tighten it up just a smidge. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shoot 2 more. I'm gonna back up, just continuously shoot them, and then we're gonna come up and see what happened. Okay, so we're back at 25 yards again. I'm just gonna shoot 2 consistently because I'm trying to get some spread that is better seen for the viewer at home. So we're gonna load these next 2 upside down. See, as you can see, upside down. So I'm not lying. I can tell there's definitely a difference between it being seated on the powder versus the paper first, which acts as your wadding. So I'm definitely seeing a slight difference there. Make sure to get grass on your gun. Okay, I might be running out of priming powder here pretty quick. Technical difficulties, we will be right back. All right, we're back. We got a fresh flint. Let's try again. Oh yeah, that one hit a lot more. And I'm kind of glad the flint went bad on camera because that one kicked. That is something a soldier of the era could have gone through. You know, if your flint just fractured in a horrible way and you had to reload, soldiers were trained to get that out during a battle and fix their gun. Because until you got a new flint, you ain't got a gun, which is just crazy. It's just the nature of the beast. So if this happens to you, whether it's a musket, rifle, anything like that, it doesn't mean your gun is broken. It's just the nature of the beast. That's just how it was. That's just what they endured. But you have to remember, these guns were state-of-the-art at the time. Before that, you had the snap-haunts, which worked, was unreliable, match locks, wheel locks. But this was the first true one to kind of come on the scene that made them all, gave them a run for their money. All right, second shot. All right. That's the last one. Let's go check the target out. Oh yeah. Well, again, not exactly what I was wanting to go for. But all 3, it's pretty dang good. Granted, again, 25 yards, no marksman, but that's still no problem for a musket. As far as buckshot, there might be another one up here. Okay, there's one in his face, one here, one here. I think this one's new. That's a new one too. So, oh, there's actually 2 here. So 2 here, one here, and then others here. Guys, that's at 25 yards. So the round ball, whether, at least in my experience from this test, is whether I load it upside down or right way up, the round ball is pretty much hitting where it's aiming at. In fact, I felt better loading it upside down. And the buckshot, regardless, is spreading so horrendously that, I mean, look how far. This, from here all the way to here, that's huge. That's like 1.5 feet of spread. So those others are going over him, around him. That is crazy. I did not expect the spread to be that big. Granted, this is a 75 caliber musket. If I tried with my 1842 Springfield, which is a smaller bore diameter, it might be a tighter grouping. But as far as Brown Bess goes, 75 caliber buck and ball, it's a lot of fun. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do and what it was designed for military warfare of the era, is it was to massively spread and hit everyone. And I think that proved that here today. And you could still be accurate enough with the round ball, which is absolutely insane. Had a couple flyers just from user error, but wow, this is definitely not what I was expecting. I would love to return to the buck and ball one day with the 1842 Springfield or my 1757 Spanish, simply because it is a smaller bore and a smaller ball regardless too. So we might get a little bit tighter grouping and better accuracy. But that's pretty good. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did, because that first time shooting buck and ball with a Brown Bess musket, what a blast. All right, so what are my thoughts on buck and ball, the Brown Bess with buck and ball, and this range test altogether? I call it a complete success. I was absolutely impressed with how it worked. Was a little shocked, just wasn't expecting that big of spread. Now, granted, I think there will be some differences if I come back to this video one day with a smaller bore gun, because the spread on the buckshot was just ridiculous. That was absolutely insane. And at 25 yards, so spitting distance, and it was missing a man-sized target, some of the buckshot. I think my hit ratio with the buckshot was like 1 in 3, so not very good. But if I had 100 of my buddies with this gun, with that cartridge, and we all started marching in formation and fired a massive volley of this sucker, everybody's going to be hit somewhere. It may not take you, it'll take you out of the fight, may not kill you, but that is crazy. Now, to go over some stuff, as you can see, this was live ammunition. I've been told in some of my comments I'm shooting blanks, and I'm lying. You saw it right here that I'm not lying, that was live ammunition, good to go. You saw what happens with the flintlock. We had a couple of hang fires, and you see that's why they got the nickname the flinchlock, because that 1 millisecond the gun doesn't go off, you're slightly moving, and that throws your accuracy off, but the gun still went off. You also saw what happens when these flintlock guns get a dull flint. You have to replace them. But to be honest, that English flint, that's the original one I put on this gun when I first got it 2 years ago. Had one misfire other than the 3 you saw. That flint lasted me about 75 rounds. That's pretty good. And then also special thanks to David Pedersoli for their Brown Bess. This thing is a very reliable gun. As long as you keep your flint sharp, I think it's going to keep shooting all day long. But I'm glad that happened to show the viewer what happens to flintlocks. Just the nature of the beast. But it's still a lot of fun. Now, am I going to continue to make buck and ball? You bet. After what I've seen today, that was so much fun. And that I can still be accurate on a man-sized target with a buck and ball cartridge. Why not throw extra lead down range? Who knows? Maybe that one little ball is the one you needed to take down a target, no matter what you're doing. And I can honestly see, even in today's warfare, at close, like house sweeping, that ain't gonna be good at close range. Whew, boy howdy, that's gonna do some damage. So yes, will I return to the range soon? I'm hoping so. I'm so sorry it has been 14 months, guys. I really am sorry. Will I return to the range? Yes, I will, so stay tuned. Will we return to the buck and ball? Absolutely. After the fun I had today, you bet I'm going to. So this was, I call this test an absolute success. And hopefully it answers some questions that people might have over flintlock smoothbores or the buck and ball cartridge, to see the kind of effects it had. And you saw, loading it different ways, effects were slightly different. And I think there's a lot to be learned from this cartridge with other guns, and even the Brown Bess again. Now stay tuned, we're going to have another cartridge come on the channel at some point, which will not be the buck and ball, which we'll do that again, but we're going to do buckshot. Again, thanks to Jefferson Arsenal, I got their buckshot kit that works in the 69 cals and the good old big 75 cal Brown Bess. So anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I know I have. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, I want to give a special shout out to the Jefferson Arsenal, as if it was not for them, this video would have not been possible. I highly recommend you go check out their website. They have a variety of cartridge kits for a variety of different weapons, and even cap and ball revolvers as well. So make sure you check out Jefferson Arsenal for all of your black powder needs. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have over the range session of buck and ball. Remember, I'm Colin Elam, aka the Musket Man. Keep your powder dry. We will catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys. We'll catch y'all next time.